Hey there. Today we are getting into something so many of us struggle with: people pleasing. It's that thing that usually starts with us trying to be helpful or kind, but somehow always ends with us feeling completely drained. We're going to break down the actual science of why saying no can feel almost impossible, and more importantly, how you can start to get your peace back without all the guilt. So let's just start with a question that I'm pretty sure is going to hit home for a lot of you. Have you ever found yourself saying yes to something, a favor, an extra project at work, a party you really didn't want to go to, while literally every single part of you is screaming no? If you're nodding along right now, here's the most important thing I want you to hear. You're not broken. This isn't some character flaw. What we call people pleasing is actually a very old, very smart survival strategy that your brain came up with a long, long time ago to keep you safe. Okay, so let's get into the psychology of this. We're about to unpack why that automatic yes that just flies out of your mouth has way less to do with being nice and a whole lot more to do with your brain's deep, deep need to feel safe. And this is the core of it right here. On the outside, to everyone else, what you're doing looks like pure kindness, maybe even selflessness. But on the inside, for the person actually doing it, the feeling that's really running the show is fear. It's the fear of being rejected, the fear of upsetting someone, the fear of conflict. And this wiring, it usually starts way back in childhood. Maybe you grew up in a house where the only way to have peace was to make sure everyone else was in a good mood. So you became the little peacekeeper. Or maybe being the good kid was how you got attention and stayed out of trouble. Your brain learned a really simple but powerful equation. Keeping other people happy equals I am safe. There's actually a clinical term for this. It's called fawning. And get this, it's considered one of the body's four main trauma responses, right up there with the famous fight, flight, and freeze. Fawning is that instinct to immediately try to please and appease someone you see as a threat, all just to avoid any kind of conflict. So, what does this look like in day-to-day life? Well, see if any of these sound a little familiar. Are you constantly saying I'm sorry? Do you feel the need to over-explain all your decisions? Do you take on way too much? Or do you just avoid disagreements like the plague? These are all classic, textbook signs that the fawn response is in the driver's seat. Now, here's the real twist. People-pleasing isn't actually passive at all. It's a very active, subconscious attempt to control your surroundings. It's all based on this hidden belief that if I can just manage how everyone else feels, if I can just keep them happy, then nobody will get mad at me, nobody will leave me, and I will finally be safe. But, as you can probably guess, trying to control everything and everyone like that, well, it comes at a huge cost. So in this next part, let's talk about the hidden price you pay for constantly chasing that approval. It's a total emotional roller coaster, isn't it? First, someone asks you for something, and for a second, you get this little dopamine hit. It feels good to be needed. But then you say yes, and that good feeling starts to fade, and what creeps in is this feeling of resentment. And the final stop on this ride? Almost always, it's total emotional burnout, just pure exhaustion. There's a powerful term for what's really happening in those moments. It's called self-abandonment. Think about it. Every single time you say yes when your body is screaming no, you're basically leaving your own side. You are abandoning your own needs, your own feelings, your own limits, all in a desperate attempt to keep that connection to someone else. And if you do this over and over for years, the long-term costs are really serious. Your relationships end up feeling really one-sided. You start to lose touch with who you even are. You end up living with this chronic anxiety, always on high alert for disapproval. And here's the ultimate irony. When you don't respect your own boundaries, you're literally teaching other people not to respect them either. This quote just nails it. You might think you're doing all of this out of love or care, but it's a kind of love that's all tangled up in fear. And a connection that's built on a foundation of fear, it can never, ever feel truly peaceful. Okay, so we've laid out the problem. We get it. But here's the good news, and it's really good news. These patterns are not a life sentence. They can be unlearned. So now we're going to shift from just being aware of the problem to actually doing something about it. Let's get into 5 really practical steps you can take to reclaim your no and start building real self-respect.
So here they are, the 5 keys to rewiring that old response. We're going to talk about everything from totally changing how you define what it means to be a good person, to discovering the absolute superpower of just taking a pause, to building tiny little boundaries that over time teach your brain that, hey, your needs matter too. All right, let's take a closer look at step 2, practice the pause. So picture this. Someone walks up to you and asks for a favor. Your instant, hardwired reaction is to just blurt out, yes, of course. But we're going to interrupt that program. This is the whole game right here. Instead of answering right away, you just pause. That's it, just for a beat. This tiny little delay feels huge, but it's so powerful. It breaks the autopilot and gives your nervous system a split second to catch up with your mouth. So what do you say in that moment? You don't need some elaborate excuse. All you need is a simple, calm phrase like, you know what, let me check my calendar and I'll get right back to you. That's it. This buys you time. Time to make a choice that's intentional, not just a reaction. Okay, but we have to talk about guilt, because when you first start doing this, you are absolutely going to feel guilty. And this is so important. You have to reframe that feeling. Guilt in this context doesn't mean you're being a bad person. It's just your brain's old alarm system freaking out because you're doing something different. Guilt is actually a sign of growth. And you start really, really small with what we can call micro boundaries. These aren't big, dramatic confrontations. They're just quiet, firm, respectful statements. Each one is a tiny act of self-respect that makes the muscle for holding boundaries a little bit stronger. And all of this really comes down to the last step, anchoring yourself in your own self-worth. See, people-pleasing comes from this deep belief that your value is based on what you can do for other people. This affirmation is your new anchor. It's a reminder that you are worthy just as you are. Your worth is not up for debate. So in the end, this whole journey isn't about becoming selfish or mean. Not at all. It's about expanding your definition of kindness so that for the first time, maybe ever, it finally includes you. And please, remember this powerful truth. I know the biggest fear is that setting boundaries will make you lose people. But saying no doesn't destroy good relationships. It just filters out the ones that were only surviving because of your silence and your compliance. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. It doesn't have to be a big deal. What is one small, gentle no that you can say this week that will protect your energy and honor your own peace? Because you absolutely deserve to be loved for exactly who you are, not for how much of yourself you're willing to give away.